Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is AshQuest, and today on this blank neoprene mat we are going to unbox the final game in my Dungeons & Dragons adventure board game series, Tomb of Annihilation. This is probably the heaviest of the boxes, and it is also probably my least favorite of the boxes. In fact, we'll go ahead and scratch that vagueness. It is my least favorite of the boxes, and you will find out why shortly. But for now, the death curse grows and the souls of the world are in peril. In the Tomb of Annihilation board game, you play a heroic adventurer with amazing ability spells and magic weapons. You must explore the primeval jungles of Chult, as well as the Tomb of the Nine Gods, where you will fight monsters, overcome traps, and find treasure. Are you ready for adventure? This Dungeons & Dragons adventure board game, which is based on an actual D&D module, is for ages 14 and up, 1 to 5 players, and should take about 60 minutes to play a session. It features the same mechanics and compatibility with the other Dungeons & Dragons adventure board games, and as the other Dungeons & Dragons adventure board games. Comes with a bunch of tiles, an absolute buttload of cards, some heroes, and some monsters. As of the time of this video, we have reviewed and unboxed every other game on the channel, including Temple of Elemental Evil, Castle Ravenloft, Wrath of Ashardalon, Legend of Drizzt, and Waterdeep Dungeon of the Mad Mage, which is one of my favorites. After Ravenloft, obviously. Unboxing. This game is by Kevin Wilson, and I want it known that it's not the setting that makes this my least favorite, and it's not the mechanics, because the mechanics are identical to pretty much every other D&D adventure board game out there. As is common to our D&D ABGs, we've got the adventure book and the rule book. The rulebook is pretty much identical to every other D&D rulebook, D&D ABG rulebook, while our adventure book has the same format as the other adventure books, discussing and detailing mechanics such as upgrading between adventures, making adventures more or less challenging, canceling encounters, and finally our quest pages, which are also common to the D&D ABG books. Here we have the name of the adventure, the number of the adventure, the flavor text or pretext for the adventure, the objective, the number of heroes, the suggested heroes, which tile set to use, the special components in this adventure, what to place as the starting tile for the adventure on the table, and how to build your dungeon deck, essentially. Deck of tiles. The special adventure rules follow on the right side of the page, and this particular first adventure, this inaugural outing into the world of the Tomb of Annihilation, features a fun little mushroom gathering quest. This adventure features a new action that a hero can take. When a hero takes the harvest mushroom action, they roll a die, and on a 6 or higher they find a suitable sample and remove 1 mushroom token from the pile. On a 5 or lower, the hero takes 1 damage from the poisonous mushrooms. I actually think that's a pretty cool mechanic. Adventure 2 is called Hedge Trimming, and provides a hint as to why I'm not particularly fond of this X-Pack. This isn't an X-Pack, it's a core game. It's a core game that you can use as an X-Pack. You can start with any of these. They're all core games. You know this by now. I know this by now. I know that you know this by now. Anyways, Adventures 2 and 3 are group adventures, and 4 and 5 are group adventures, 6 and 7 are group adventures, 8, 9, and 10 are group adventures playable with any amount of players from 2 to 5. For some reason, Adventure 11 is a group adventure that requires at least 3 heroes to play, but this doesn't necessarily mean you need 3 players. One of the objectives of this, or the objective I guess, is to enter the Misty Arches, but to do that, you have to have at least 1 hero adjacent to all 3 of the Misty Arches at the same time, so you need 3 heroes for that. So just, double hand or whatever they call it. Adventures 12 and 13 are your typical 2 to 5 group adventures, which means everybody gets to play every single quest for once, making this one of the finer assemblages of quests in the Dungeons & Dragons adventure board game series. I'm just gonna call it the WizKid series. Semantics, I need something that rolls off the tongue a little bit better. In this, our final core game episode, we'll remove the minis, all of the minis. The box is very simple. We have all of our cards in one block here in the single card cavity, which are separated into the typical class names rather than the individual character names that they give to these characters on their character boards, which is a good thing. And of course, because multiple games in this series have these classes like Ranger and Bard, you could take these cards irrespective of the designs of the characters that are illustrated on them and kind of mix and match them with the other games to create different movesets that you could possibly choose between when you are leveling up or getting more skills. The more of these core games you get, the greater the homebrew potential. That's probably obvious, but I think that it's really worth mentioning in this case. Now, being that this all takes place in the jungle, the mighty jungle, we have classes, certain ones, that will kind of go along with this theme. Our ranger may have taken a little bit of inspiration from big game hunting. Probably not, though. Our bard is, well, one of the most hilarious bards I've ever seen. Look at this old cat. The druid definitely has jungle biome motif. We're going to see in a moment if any of these illustrations match their miniatures, because D&D WizKids games are very hit and miss, and usually miss about that little minor detail. The cool thing about this druid is you get panther wild shape, ape wild shape, and crocodile wild shape. We're going ape wild, so no matter where you are in the world of D&D, the damn good berry grows everywhere. Wonder if I'm gonna get restricted for saying damn. Like, what if I was talking about a levy? This damn blocks the I'm the damn guy. Make sure to grab your damn merch on the way out. Anybody? I don't know if I can get behind an aged dinosaur paladin, but I guess it takes all kinds. I can and will 100% get behind any Kenku, including a Kenku wizard. We've got our Ring of Winter daily powers, which is the mechanic of the game, the unique thing that's only in this one, that's not in the other ones. Not the daily powers, those are in all of the games, but the Ring of Power, Ring of Winter, sorry. A little bit of a thematic clash there. Everyone knows it can't be winter in the jungle. The only weather in jungle is jungle. We have our trap cards in our trap deck, which of course Yugi can activate, including Quicksand, Bear Trap, Toxic Fumes, Guardian Skull, Warning Spell, Whirling Blades, Rotating Room, Teleport Glyph, Murderous Mural. Murderous Mural. This might just be me, it might just be my imagination, but there are elements of this game out of all of the games that tone down the lore and amp up the sterile rulings, such as the wordage on this card, and by separating that lore from the ruling, you kind of make it evident that you've just got this bare bones, themeless game that's wearing a skin. I mean, at the end of the day, that's kind of all games, but the more you can blend your lore with the game itself, the more thematic your experience can become, and I don't see a whole lot of theme here. We have our spell deck, including the Ray of Frost, the Magic Missile, the Fireball, Lightning Bolt, Ice Storm, Disintegrate, and so on. Classic D&D stuff. Our adventure cards, which typically give us some allies, or other cards that we need in order to play the game with a little bit of additional information to help us track stuff. Our encounter cards, typical to these. Crushing Humidity, Zabo Mushroom Spores, Lost, Assassin Vine, Danger from the Dark. All of these are bad things generally, and you can cancel them out by spending some experience, as is the D&D WizKids game way. Our treasure cards, which are a little bit more of a welcome sight, the Pouches of Copper and of Copper and of Copper, and then there's a Pouch of Copper. Oh, and then you can get some leaves. Potions of Healing, Bag of Silver, Cloak of Displacement, the Ion Stone of Mastery, Shagambi's Blessing, and so on. Wait, what? Rastan Sea's Flame Tongue Greatsword. That's actually pretty cool. Finally, we have the monster deck, and we have one card for every monster figurine that's in the game. I'm not kidding. There are a lot of them in this one. This is not one of the reasons it's my least favorite, but we're going to find out why very, very soon. We have a lot of destination tiles, the clearing, the ruin. This is what the clearing looks like. The dead end, the hollow tree, Akarak's Crypt, and all of these have this jigsaw edge that you can fit these tiles together. And of course, all of these are the same size as all of the other tiles in the other D&D games, so you can create your own mega dungeon, complete with all sorts of biomes. We have our fantastic array of dungeon tiles, which are all the same size, so they're very easy to randomize and choose from, and so when you create your dungeon deck, so to speak, it really is just these tiles. There are no reference cards. There are two different kinds of tile as far as theming goes. We've got these jungle tiles, which are outdoor, and then we have these tomb tiles, which are indoor, and the book says they can never be mixed or matched. So now you do what you want as far as homebrew goes, but you'll never see an official quest where you've got outdoor tiles being used with indoor tiles. And I kind of think that's a shame. They should have had some sort of indoor-outdoor gate tile that you could use to place, or maybe even more than one, to represent adventures that could take place inside and outside of a building. But the main factor of these adventure game system tiles is that they're going to have one of any configuration of entrances and exits that either go at a right angle, straight across, T-shaped or quadrant-shaped or perhaps a dead end. I said quadrant-shaped, cross path. And the thing that differentiates them from each other, because there really aren't that many combinations once you break it down to those bare bones combinations, we have symbols on the squares on the tile. Yes, this game calls these things tiles and it calls these squares, it's fine. To each game their own, and it takes all sorts of games to make a world. So you might have gotten a set of tiles in a previous game that illustrate a corridor, a 2x4 section of squares, but I bet you didn't get one where there were two symbols with X's at the end, or maybe you did, but you didn't get that in combination exactly with all of the other tiles represented the way that they are here. And so you get to create more types of homebrew scenarios. I'm selling the idea of this game based on its homebrew ability. But that is something I really like. Maybe you're one of the types of people who gets a game like this and you say, 13 quests, that's enough for me. I'm good. I'll play the 13 quests and that's money well spent. And I would actually agree with you on that. If every quest lasts about an hour, you get your money's worth. But it behooves us to make games and encourage big companies to make games that feature the ability to make your own quests for your people to play. Maybe you play these 13 quests and your party's just not done. They want more. They want to keep playing. Well, for that, I would say buy Castle Ravenloft, Wrath of Ashardalon, etc., etc., etc. But what if this becomes a whole tradition and you guys love your D&D Adventure System games? Then you would make your own quests, right? And there should be communities out there where there are homebrew quests made up of the different tile sets from these games, or just individual games, so like a whole campaign based on the Castle Ravenloft board game that maybe uses slightly different mechanics but doesn't require you to have anything except for that. Now this is where the fun part comes in. Here's all of the cardboard. All of the cardboard, minus one condition marker that I forgot to punch out. I don't know how that happened. That I had as excess. And the game box is somehow perfectly suited to continue carrying this cardboard slag after you've punched everything out. And I realize when it comes to you brand new, it has to have enough room in the box to fit all of this stuff. It's fun that after you do that, if you weren't the type to keep the slag like I am with some of these games, I don't know why I do it with some and not with others, that your game contents would be much lower in the box. You'd have all this room, and it's like, now I have an extra big box. So I guess you could combine game systems together if you wanted to save on space. One of these days I'm going to get a storage solution that actually has all this. I'm not going to go through and tell you about all the tokens for this one. They're the standard fare for these D&D games. You've got different denominations of gold coin. You've got different, I forgot what these are called. They're good things that are temporary. You've got these advantage and disadvantage markers that spell out everything for you, making this a very, very simple experience. Sometimes you get stuff it could just be a descriptionless small token, but it goes on ahead and becomes this whole descriptive thing, so you're never at a loss for what it is or how it do. Putting that aside, it's time to get the camera down here and look at these miniatures. We'll get our character boards ready for comparison. Birdsong, the Tabaxi Bard, Artus Simber, the Human Ranger, Kawasha, the Human Druid, Dragonbait, the Sauril Paladin, Ashara, the Aarakocra Wizard. Oh, I was calling him a Kenku. That's not right. I fail. We've also got ones that represent monsters, but they're not going to mismatch their art at all because the 3D renders of the models are literally printed onto the boards. First, we're going to organically create a level using the clearing tile. Now, one of our heroes will step off and draw from the stack randomly. It's got to be a jungle tile. And it's going to have a black arrow, which means I think that means we draw an event, right? The event could be a monster. We draw another jungle tile with the arrow facing towards the player that drew the tile at the edge of the tile that they were on. And now we go through the whole Bardic Broadcasts problem of you never know how much room the game's going to take up when you're building it, do ya? And then eventually you have a dead end, and that's why our beginner tiles have extra routes outward. Now, so there are probably fewer dead ends than there are beginning spaces, exits on this beginning space. There are probably fewer than 4 dead ends in this collection. Okay, but if we do this, we have where this is going to terminate. That's fine. Looks a little bit silly with the cutout though. And since I'm building this for my own benefit, I'll just customize my own there. Okay, I'm not gonna let some silly board game tell me what to do. I am going to mix and match the tiles. So prepare to be, oh look, it's a clearing. Everything is wide open on this tile. I like these kinds of tiles being mixed in with the corridors and such because it's gonna give you the ability to make these larger areas where there's line of sight across multiple tiles. And I mean, you're gonna get that between these two spots in the corridor, but it brings a whole sense of dimensionality to the game when you also have diagonal line of sight. I realize line of sight from here will actually be valid to here on this tile, or from here maybe to here on this tile. I can't remember the line of sight rules as they pertain to diagonals around corners for D&D, but you get what I mean. We have a village tile, which I think is pretty cool. I just wish that there weren't scale. Yeah, I'm not gonna call this scale mismatch. The board's not gonna scale with the characters, but I think all of the elements on the board tiles scale within themselves. I mean, these treetops and these houses and these vines don't look out of scale with each other at all. So I actually can't crack on the scale. The windy hill is here. See, when all of your stuff is compatible in scale, then the immersion holds. And instead of saying I'm walking, 5 feet or 6 feet or however long you want to say these squares are on the tiles, you can actually go ahead and say that that's 10 feet. And then the movement across the squares retains a sort of integrity. I don't know that there's going to be a whole lot of folks complaining about the integrity of movement across tiles, but that's something that I complain about because none of this matters and I like to pretend that it does. I also have a preference. If I can't be immersed in this game, I'd rather play one that I am immersed in. So, I mean, argue against that. And here is our lineup of heroes. They are a motley bunch this time around. I don't think they necessarily mismatch their card art, at least not nearly as much as some of the other games do. I'm pretty happy about this. Even if I don't particularly prefer the design of the paladin in this case, I do think he has a lot of character and a lot of charm, and I think that there are some people who would play this character and absolutely love it. Our cat bard, our catfolk tabaxi here bard, he's another example of somebody who doesn't really mismatch the art too much, although I don't get the cranky sort of vibe that this guy has on his face. The druid in particular matches his art wonderfully for a blessing. The card art is very thematic, and it would be a shame to lose any of that in the miniature. Okay, we have our ranger, and his hair actually looks the same, and he's even got a mustache, and that mustache is both on the card as well as the miniature, so somebody definitely paid attention there. His coat actually looks very similar. He's got his quiver on his thigh in the same place, same size. I mean, everything is pretty much accurate for that. No complaints there, no notes. We have our Aarakocra wizard next, and I mean, you'd have to be trying to get that design wrong. It's a bird. He is wearing very particular clothes, yes, but other than that, there are wings, there are feathers. It's not messed up. The weapon does not quite look the same as the weapon illustrated on the card. It is a spear. The head doesn't have a hole through it, but that's fine. I'm not really going to complain about that. All right, I've been teasing you all long enough. I despise some of these monster miniatures. It's not the jungle theme. The jungle theme is fine. It's a bit limited in the same way that any particular biome is going to limit you in terms of what kind of stuff you can bring into the expansion or core game. And it is nice to have versions of monsters. Like in HeroQuest, we get the green cultists. Same cultist, refreshing new flavor. In this one, we've got the Chult zombies. This is a different kind of zombie. It might actually have the exact same stats as a regular zombie from another game, but it's got a different theme applied, and that's fine. You could utilize it in various scenarios. We've also got these skeletons. They're just called skeletons, and they're fine as well. They've got a bit of a jungle motif about their design as far as what they are wearing. Their raiments are very culturally specific. This thing is called the skeleton key, and I don't really get it. It's silly. I don't know that I've seen silly in D&D WizKids yet, but that's fine, I guess. These are called Sioux monsters. They're kind of like killer monkeys, sort of. They may have a basis on a very obvious popular myth that I'm just missing, not getting at all. They're okay. They're fine. They are very monkey-like. We've got these enemies called the fire newts, and this is where I'm like, all right, let's stop with the mobs and get some enemies that are a little bit bigger. These guys are really small. They're just here to annoy your heroes. Look at the size difference. They're here to try to overwhelm you in numbers. The sheer amount of monsters that comes with this game is pretty impressive, but I don't want to be disappointed in the type and quality of the sculpts. And I mean, I always struggle with WizKids sculpts anyway, but this is the Yuan Ti Brood Guard. They're okay. They're an established race in D&D. I can't really argue against their existence here. But this next bag, this is what... Hold on. Let me just set this camera down for a second. This takes the cake for me. This is ridiculous. Everything here, this entire warband, all of these. These are Batiri goblins, and they just look like little Groots. They just look like vegetables. This is called a... It's pretty cute, but it's so small. There's 3 of those. There's 3 of these goblins. You've got these extremely small velociraptors. I'm sorry, but this is the size difference between their raptor and your hero. These guys are just meant to be kicked like footballs. I don't condone violence against dinosaurs, okay? Unless you are a dinosaur, and then it's in your nature. Anybody catch that Tasmania reference? These guys are the reason that this is my least favorite of these games. They really said, let's go to the jungle. Welcome to the jungle. And then they gave us these ridiculous, pathetic, pitiful veggie-pygmies. I hate them. I don't think I have felt such vitriol against an enemy mob in a board game since ever. This game would be less offensive to me if they had just melted these together, pooled their resources plastic-wise, and made a 4th one of these mobs. A crapload of enemy cards. And it's almost exclusively the smallest monsters you've ever seen. Those are all just the greens, though. There's other monster types, sort of, the mid-bosses and bosses. I am just a cat boy, and my story's seldom told. I was walking along the jungle. Whoa, what is that? Scream! That is what I'm talking about. Pterodactyl Man. Pterodactyl Man. 2x2 on the base. There's no need for that, actually. Pterodactyl Man. Pterodactyl Man! Scream! What if I told you I loved the character Sauron from X-Men? I don't think there needs to be, like, dinosaurs in X-Men. I don't think there needs to be dinosaurs in a lot of fantasy media. But these guys are so cool, they almost make up for that travesty that is the Vegapygmy mob unit. And there's 2 of them. They're awesome. I love them. Pterodactyl Man. Pterodon Man? Next up we have this Giralon, which is like a mutant ape. He's got 4 arms. He looks very dangerous. He looks kind of gross. It looks like we would be doing him a favor by putting him out of his misery. He looks like an abomination. There's that ape cake. They just can't avoid it. I guess the cake is always going to be a part of the sculpt. Giralon. I don't mind this monster. It's a bit more threatening, actually, than the giant ape we get in Jungles of Delthrak on the HeroQuest side. Don't blame them for the giant ape monster at all, and instead of it just being an ape, it's an ape monstrosity, so that's cool. This guy is the giant 4-armed gargoyle. That's very descriptive, but I mean, it's perfectly suited to describe what he is. He's a giant 4-armed gargoyle. I can think of no better way to classify him, so I'm just going to show you his finely detailed head wrinkles, and we will move on. The game actually came with 2 monstrous apes. This snake man is, at the same time, both finely detailed and not well sculpted. It's paradoxical. To this game's credit, this is one of the cooler liches that I have seen in this series of games. He's nothing if not confident. This is a nice sculpt of a lady who is wielding a staff. I like her. She's alright. She's fine. She needs the hot water trick so she can stand up, or maybe she's supposed to be leaning forward like, I told you no! And then there's this utterly abhorrent waste of space, this complete, ridiculous, useless hunk of plastic. Maybe Gloomhaven Buttons and Bugs has a spot for you, but I don't. Get out of here. Monkey. And we're moving on to the final miniature of the game, and this is the second reason this is my least favorite. Some of you are going to disagree. Some of you are going to say this is totally awesome, tubular, rad, out of sight. This is the stone juggernaut, and it looks like this. It is a 3x3 tile monstrosity, just a huge hunk of non-hollowed plastic. This is the heaviest thing in the box and the heaviest thing in any Dungeons & Dragons WizKid box, and is the final miniature in this set and the final miniature in this series. And I don't want to end it on a sour note by showing you something that I don't think should have been included in the box. This thing is ridiculous. Look at it. It's just a tank. It's a tank with elephant tusks and huge steamroller cylinders crushing everything in its path. I don't know what its story is. I don't know how rooted in the game of D&D it is, but this is the stone juggernaut. Now, I'm not going to tell you that this is not awesome in its own right. This is really cool. This deserves its own like toy line. There needs to be several of these. It's actually pretty fun to move across the board. The fact that the wheels are kind of off of its base allow you to move it like any other miniature, but it feels kind of like you're juggernaut bulldozing over the forests and villagers. Goodbye, houses. Oh, goodbye, veggie pygmies. When you put it on the board, your players are going to collectively go, what the fudge? And that's going to be worth the entire experience. It's really going to sell the whole game. But like, did it belong in this? Was this supposed to be the big bad? Once you defeat this thing, the campaign's over? It almost takes up the entire tile. It's hilarious. Yeah, I don't mind it, but I also at the same time hate it just because why? Why couldn't I get T-Rex Man, or I don't know, objectively this is probably cooler than that. I'm gonna blame it on my veggie pygmy rage, because the designs all over this thing are really neat. They really spent a lot of time and effort to make sure that every square nanometer of this thing was covered in design, in motif, in deliberate carving and theme. It's dripping, oozing with theme. With this thing, HeroQuest, oh yeah, it's got the toy factor 1000%. You could see this thing going along the jungles of Delthrak, patrolling. You could not see it maybe going through the corridors in the dungeon board, but some of you were like, that's where you're wrong, kiddo. But that, more or less, is Tomb of Annihilation, the board games. Let's just rebox it all. There we go. Simple. This is effectively the end of the core game series, although I do have one more game to show you, which is the expansion to all of these games. And I say that because all 6 of these adventure board game series games are compatible with this one expansion that they released called Ghosts of Saltmarsh. So I do hope you'll look forward to the presentation of that. You will have to let me know what is your favorite D&D WizKids Adventure System game, and Castle Ravenloft and Legend of Drizzt don't count because those are just easy answers. Mine is probably Dungeon of the Mad Mage because I actually love the setting, but does anybody out there consider Tomb of Annihilation their favorite of the series? Tell me why that is, and forgive me for my trespasses against your kind. Thank you so much for your kind attention today, brave heroes. I'll see you in the next exciting episode, and until then, I wish you the best of luck on your next adventure. Until then, onward.